While we're waiting, it's cool that International Space Station is actually one of the topics.
Yeah.
For like very specific, but that's cool.
Well, I guess you're essentially trying to create like a decentralized International Space Station. So, I wanted to drop that in as one of the topics, because that's of interest to anyone.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, yeah. I just like the topics that they have available are pretty like interesting. Like some,
Yeah,
yeah, like some are extremely niche.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's. Remember when it first started? There were very few. Like you could pick in like investing, but there was no like subtopics. Now like there's just so many random things that people are talking about all over X.
Yeah, yeah. I remember. Well, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that yeah, Twitter Spaces has only been around what, like 2 years in total, something like that. I remember when they first
Yeah.
launched.
Well, it started right because like Clubhouse, yeah, the popularity spiked during COVID, so that was like around 21, and so Spaces launched probably 4 months after that spike.
Totally, yeah. And is Clubhouse even? I mean, do people use that much anymore? I remember getting it way back in the day, and it was super exciting. People talking about all types of crypto stuff, and
Right.
um, yeah, that,
I haven't been on it, but
yeah.
that thing actually really like I think it started this new wave of like new form of podcasting essentially. Like Clubhouse did that. I felt.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. Like I like to think of it as like collaborative, like podcasting, and you can like bring people up, and yeah, I mean it's a really like it's an awesome new medium.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect for Web3 in my opinion, right? Like it really built started allowing people to build real community at scale, and like collaborating on ideas and like being able to like share those ideas very easily and quickly through all these like new mediums, which is really cool. So, and then you started seeing a huge spike in obviously just interest in general.
Totally. No, like MoonDAO grew out of basically Twitter Spaces. Like in the really early days, I was like, how like we just would jump into a space like once a night,
Oh,
and then just talk about like, oh, like what could we do? How could we make this work? And that's really how it all started.
oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good segue. That's a really good segue to uh, what we're going to be talking about, which is basically your origin story and MoonDAO and how it all got started. So, with that, let me kick things off and we'll get into the conversation. My name is Mina Salib. I'm the head of Web3 at Axiom Space. I run the Axiom Space3 program, which is our Web3 program. We're building at the intersection of space and obviously Web3, where we run this conversation called Space3 Talks. We try bi-weekly, sometimes it becomes monthly, where we talk to builders building at the intersection of Web3 and space. And today we are on with Pablo Moncada, founder of MoonDAO. MoonDAO actually was one of my inspirations when I first got into the space. I learned a lot from like this organization, how it got started, how it was building community, and I take a lot of inspiration from what y'all have done. So big thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah, I mean, I think Axiom is it's awesome to see like a company that is already established, already building like space hardware, putting stuff up into space, like bridging over to Web3. I think that what you guys are doing is incredible. So
Thank you. Well, you've been a trailblazer in the space. You alongside a lot of our other Web3 space friends. But you guys have built arguably the biggest Web3 space community. And would love to just first start off with kind of your origin story, your background, and how MoonDAO even got started.
yeah, totally. So my background, I'm a software engineer. I worked at Google for a few years. I was working at Waymo, which is the autonomous car that they have, and yeah, I think yeah, somewhere along the way, I guess I was mostly struck by this like vision of like where the world is heading, and I think it's starting to really enter into the public conversation. Like as we develop all these breakthroughs in AI, and we start to see a lot of the power of these tools being in fewer and fewer hands. What does that really imply for the world? And so I got really fascinated with the ideas of a DAO as being kind of a potential counterbalance to like a few companies having like a really big control over billions of people's lives. And so that kind of started me down the path of like thinking about DAOs. And actually, when I first started, I was thinking really small and locally. And I was working on an idea basically improve people's ability to share things with one another. There'd been kind of like a bunch of tombstones of different apps that were trying to create something like a shared pool of resources between people. And what I thought was the sort of missing piece is that a lot of these companies they would kind of sit as sort of like the intermediary. And I thought that the really cool thing about these new tools with smart contracts is that you actually don't need a third party. So people sharing their stuff would be able to do it directly.
Sorry, what year is this?
This was in 2019, 2020. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Keep going. Sorry.
And yeah, so I got really fascinated with just sort of like the potential of the tools. And then somewhere along the way, I got involved in a movement to try to purchase the U.S. Constitution, and so that was end of 2021, November of 2021. And the idea was basically the U.S. Constitution was going up for a bid at Sotheby's, and what if a bunch of people pooled their money together to beat out a billionaire that might own one of these like historical documents that's like a cornerstone and like foundational statement towards democracy, which I think is also what these crypto tools do. And unfortunately, we did lose. I think the DAOs, like we were able to raise $47 million in a
Came
week.
in. You came in. It came in second, right? Constitution DAO came in second, right? $47 million or something.
Yeah. I mean, we pushed the price of that paper, that piece of paper. It was one of the first copies of the. There's
Right.
13 original copies, um, and we pushed it from like an estimated something like 15 to 20 million dollars that it would go for to yeah over 40 million dollars. So
Triple.
I think we gave it a good run, but I think it was just like an early like demo test of like the power of the tools. And now I'm looking at like how much the space has progressed in just the past 2-3 years. And I think if today we were to have something like Constitution DAO, I think we would actually win.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of like these things kind of move in cycles, and now we're entering a new cycle here, and I'm excited to test out all this new tooling that people have developed. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and Constitution. So Constitution DAO, when you were doing that, also around the same time was the stock trades with AMC and GameStop and all that stuff. So it just like was entire wave of like the power of community and what happens if all these people get together around a common goal, or about something that they believe in or are passionate about. So I love that. Was an awesome kind of prequel for like the rise of like Web3 communities, which I feel that you were obviously a big part of.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think well, it's funny too that the guy who won the Constitution was Ken Griffin, who's the founder of the hedge fund Citadel,
Right.
and he's also the one that was kind of the enemy in sort of the GME series, where Citadel was doing the market making for Robinhood, and Robinhood closed out trading of GME stock. And,
I remember that. Yep.
yeah, so there's a lot of common themes. Yeah.
At that time, I literally pulled all my money from Robinhood. I'm like, you know what? I'm not supporting this anymore, just at a personal level, which is really funny. But anyways, we got sidetracked with a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
But so you're in this wave, right? You're really part of like this new evolution or revolution of like just people getting together and pooling their money together and supporting causes that they care about. And I'm guessing you kind of saw how that could potentially do that for space, or like where did the space component come in support?
Yeah, so like I said, like initially I was looking at like local communities, but the thing is that there just really isn't the type of density there locally to like start to shift things. Like maybe in even here in San Francisco where I live, the percentage of people that have wallets is still maybe like 1 to 3%. Like and so it's not quite like permeated yet, and I think that we're starting to see that sort of S curve take off in terms of like people's ability to onboard into crypto. So that's kind of been a big focus for sure at MoonDAO right now. But I guess like going back, like MoonDAO really is kind of like it's going from the opposite direction. So
Mm.
people from all over the world, there are very few things that everyone around the globe can actually rally behind, and one of them is space exploration. So it doesn't matter where you are, like what part of the planet you're from. Everyone can look up at the stars and be inspired. And there's a similar theme basically where there are certain things because space is so capital intensive that only pretty much governments or billionaires can do. And so um, I think MoonDAO was really birthed out of the same sort of DNA as sort of like GME or Constitution, where it's like, okay, what can we do collectively? Well, we can actually go and send people up to space, an everyday person into space, and so that was kind of just the core of the idea that we just kept building around. And along the way, like I met a bunch of incredible people, some of whom are in this audience. I see Ryan and Mitchie and Flow Science and Manuel and a bunch of others from the MoonDAO community, Hacker Twins to Andrew. um, and so yeah, I think it just resonated with a ton of people. Because especially during COVID, I feel like a lot of people felt powerless, and so locked in your house, like you're kind of craving this idea of like community, and so I think we like it just exploded online, whereas like we were able to find each other and find people that resonated with this idea of like, yes, let's explore the cosmos. Yes, like we can do something about that together. We can work together and make these like huge things possible. So yeah.
Awesome. And what was the first initiative that you launched with, right? Like that you really started getting people excited about.
Yeah, so I guess we're going like deep into the lore. Initially, the idea started because we found like the largest lunar asteroid that was going up for sale at Sotheby's, but then we quickly pivoted where we're like, well, why buy a rock? We could maybe actually send someone up into space. The idea with the rock was like, well, there's the 1967 Outer Space Treaty that claims that there can be no national appropriation of celestial bodies. So if a DAO were to own, a chunk of the moon, like maybe that, flies. And I still think that there might be something there. But anyways, yeah, we started to like basically think about how expensive are these tickets? Is it possible to raise to purchase one? And we started researching and picking up the phone. And um, yeah, initially we wanted to purchase a Virgin Galactic ticket because that was like the cheapest one that we could find, and it was about $500,000 is what we saw online. Um, and then yeah, we just said, all right, let's try to go for it. I I threw in some money, and for a while it was mostly just me that that put money into the idea, and then and then over time, more and more people were like, all right, yeah, this is cool. Let's try to send someone up, and then yeah, it just yeah, it grew from there. It was kind of like unexpected, the response that we received. Yeah.
No, it's awesome, and I feel like you caught people one at a great time, right? Where there's so much hype, people are still kind of like being isolated, but they're feeling community. They're being inspired by your mission of really sending a community member to space. I guess fast forward now, right? Like you have this growing community, you have a bunch of people that are following your mission, right? You're trying. Well, so like, where are you guys at now, and how has this evolved for you?
Yeah, so yeah, I guess fast forwarding a little bit, we raised enough to purchase two of the tickets, and then the idea was we were gonna vote with one ticket, and then the other one was going to be a random sweepstakes, or like raffle between everyone in the community. And uh, we were able to successfully send someone up into space in 2022. So the community voted between a list of famous people, and the winner was Kobe Cotton from Dude Perfect. And with the other one, we did a raffle internally, and the winner was actually from China, and that's actually what set us off on a whole other journey within MoonDAO, which is U.S.-China relations in outer space. And so that is like a very like deep subject and stuff that goes above my head. But I think that things go very quickly from like this idealistic, like, hey, let's all we're all united in trying to go to space. But then the moment that we like picked a name out of the hat and as someone from China, then we worked really hard to try to get them a visa for over a year, and we just kept getting denied over and over again. And so we were kind of left with this, like, I don't know. I mean, it was really sad, and I feel bad for his name's Yan, and his family, and but ultimately, um, since he wasn't able to go, now we've got this other ticket, and we're still trying to get an everyday person to go to space. And so we spoke at length within the community. We like and we basically made a decision. All right, well, if he can't go, like we should re-raffle this. We should, and so that's where we're at now. And so we're selecting someone new from our community via an NFT mechanism, and yeah, we're super excited to run this, basically this experiment, and like sending an everyday person to space. You can get one of the NFTs for about $20 right now. So the way to get one is you have to burn 20,000 Mooney, which is our governance token. So basically, everyone that contributed in the beginning, they receive some of the governance token, and now for the amount that they burn, that's like their entries into the sweepstakes. So that's really exciting. Yeah, and I think that like uh, yeah, it's kind of like we're we've opened up, like, almost by accident, like a new type of business model for DAOs, where they can take something that previously was only accessible to a very 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 rich person, and then collectively own that thing, and then like distribute it between the community, either in the form of a sweepstakes, or in some sort of game, or voting mechanisms, stuff like that. And so yeah, I think it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg in terms of like things that our community can do. We've also done zero gravity flights, where we've done something similar, and like purchased a whole zero gravity plane, and
Yeah, that was awesome.
raffled some of the seats and stuff like that. And that's also like still pretty expensive. It's not that accessible to most
Right,
people.
right.
Like, yeah, like
Wait, so
a
so you guys purchased the entire zero gravity flight, and then you raffled that opportunity. So it's not like they paid to actually get on that. You just raffled it to any of the community members.
So the way that we structured it is we sold some amount of the seats, like,
Okay.
directly.
Yeah,
The other amount we've raffled and then voted.
that's
So
awesome.
kind of like similar to what we did with the Blue Origin seat. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, well, on the first point of like the the Chinese citizen that couldn't go on the flight that they won via the random raffle. It just shows you kind of like the multipolar world like that we live in, right? Like you can have something that's supposed to be very uniting, right? Obviously in space, and then you still obviously have geopolitical issues in general that you always have to deal with. So it's interesting that like when as we're building, trying to build like more of a decentralized, more democratized kind of like space communities, like between MoonDAO, where what we're trying to do at Axiom Space 3, and all the other awesome partners and friends that are building the space. You still have kind of like realistic issues that we all have to kind of work around, and things like that. So it's
Totally.
sad, but it's kind of just the reality we live in.
Yeah, but I guess on that note, like
Yeah.
I really believe in the power of these tools in that they're only enforced through code. So there isn't necessarily like a human that can differentially, enforce say some rules for people in the United States and other rules for people in China. So it's like basically a level playing field for everyone. And I think that we need these types of tools in order to collaborate productively with like adversarial nations. And so I think that um, like people think of capitalism as like competition, but really it's collaborative. So within the structure of capitalism, like you set up rules, like there can be private ownership of goods, and a bunch of other rules that then allow people to collaborate and compete effectively in a way that is positive sum. And so I think that what these tools allow for is basically setting up games where everyone agrees to some structure of rules to collaborate together, right? And then they can compete on outcomes. And so I think that this is like kind of what we need in order to enable different parts of the world to collaborate effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it kind of leads me to, like, I guess my first official question, where we're talking about, one of your taglines is like decentralizing access to space. Um, we talked about how space can often be looked at as kind of like a rich person's game or ecosystem industry. Um, how do you realistically kind of do that from a practical standpoint? I know it's a nice thing to say, democratizing access and this and that, but how do you do that, kind of outside, even maybe just outside of potentially sending a community member to space? Is there a way to do that at scale?
Yeah, so this is something that we've been thinking a ton about and really focusing our energy on. And so I think that something that I'm really, really excited about in the next few months after this sweepstakes is over, um, is basically focusing on what we're calling the a D prize. So I'm really bullish on the structure of basically the X prize and how those things work, where there's like some major superlative that a bunch of people want to see. In the X Prize's case, is basically rapid reusability of going to space and back. And so I think that basically what MoonDAO can do is help identify like these really big challenges, crowd raise with people from all over the world to say like, hey, if you achieve this goal, you will get this prize, and then basically like set up these competitions for people all over the world. Like what we really want to enable is like the genius kid in their garage to enter into the like arena of ideas of like, here are some of the most difficult challenges that some of the biggest startups are facing right now, and then enabling them to start to work and collaborate on those ideas. So yeah, we've got a bunch of ideas for like what sort of challenges to tackle. But yeah, the real, I think, piece of innovation there is that currently like things like the X Prize are still operated by humans, right? And so it still makes it very difficult for like there's some amount of that uh, like I I I want to put this in the nicest way possible, but there's always some ability for someone to kind of put their thumb on the dial in one direction or another. Um, but if you can set up on-chain games where the way that the winners are selected is transparent, like similar to how we've done with the selection process for NFTs, where we call a chain link contract, and you can view and see who is selected like directly on chain. You don't have to trust some random person to pull a name out of a hat. You can actually just see it right there. And so I think that yeah, like that's like a direction for bringing more and more people into the conversation, and setting up basically games where everyone can play. It doesn't matter if you have access to a space program. Most countries around the world don't have a space program, but they do have people that are incredibly excited and want to learn and understand and work on some of these problems. So I say, like, why don't we like leverage the creativity of millions or billions of people to work on these challenges?
How
Um,
how have you thought of, because I love that, by the way, that the gamification that you're talking about, and really building, leveraging gamification methods to kind of incentivize people and just inspire them to do great work and try to achieve something awesome. I love that thought pattern and that process that you're laying out. How do you go about finding those people? Because I think one of the issues is, like, hypothetically, there are so many people that are so curious, interested about space. There are people that I meet, just find out what I do, and they're like, "Oh, I love space." I'm like, "All right, I never thought you love space, right? Like, you don't, you don't stick out as this person that quote unquote loves space, right?" But, like, how do we go about finding that and kind of, finding our tribe? Because I personally, outside of obviously the people in our ecosystem and the partners that we work with, and a lot of the already existing community members, one of the challenges is, like, finding those space enthusiasts, right, or the space curious people. How have you done that?
yeah, that's a great question. So, like, I'd say for Axiom and for MoonDAO, we're both kind of in this intersection of both crypto and space. And I think especially for the space enthusiasts, they don't see that as a positive. They actually see it as a negative usually. So they see kind of the world of crypto as a world of scams, a world of kind of like degenerate gambling or fast money or something like that. Which is definitely the loudest part of crypto, and I think we're trying to get our message out, but there's just so much FTX, whatever stuff like happening in the background that kind of drowns out our message. But I think like there's so many closeted space people out there that maybe work software engineering jobs, but really when they were a kid they dreamt of being an astronaut, but instead they're working in SaaS or whatever. And I think that like what 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 we want to communicate to people is that like right now like a lot of people did dream of one day becoming an astronaut or working in space, but the reality is that we like there isn't quite as much of a market yet, and we need to kind of basically invent new ways to collaborate and work together so that people can make a living working on space. And currently, the easiest way to do that is basically to work in the government, or work with the government and get government grants from the U.S., etc. And so you kind of
Fun,
have,
super
yeah,
fun.
yeah, it's incredibly fun, yeah,
Right.
yeah, and and it's almost like kind of the inverse of a lot of the crypto kind of ethos to some extent. And yeah, I mean, like where am I trying to go with this? I think like basically like if we put out the bad signal, and we say, hey, you can actually work in space and you can actually do like you can work on real problems and find more people that are kind of in this tribe of like they love space, and they want to be at the forefront of the technology. Then I think that like there's just so much latent enthusiasm out there, but it's just mostly that they've been jaded, either through like maybe working at a space startup before that failed, or being a part of some crypto nonsense that like then like imploded. um, so I think we just have to be like I don't know, like I think that the longer that we stick around and do really impactful things like sending people to space, like providing funding for like zero G flights or sending people's DNA to the moon, etc. Like stuff like that, that gets people to understand like, oh wait, these guys are actually serious. They're doing real things, and I can contribute and be a part of it. Then like it'll happen naturally, but it just doesn't happen overnight. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to make that. It's hard to prove that you're serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that makes complete sense. I think one of the other things is people feel so disconnected from it because they don't, they feel like they don't have the money or the skill set, or whatever it may be. They're not scientists or researchers, so like, how can they participate in space? And I think, to your point, some of the things that are really cool that people are doing, right? Like, we're working with Copernic Space to send like a meme to space, right? Like, geometric energy is, doing memes and and tokens and things. People are kind of like, they're looking at space, and they're trying to kind of humanize it and bring it to a level where people are already at, instead of making it so that you have to be this, rocket scientist to participate in it. I think it's really smart. But sometimes, like, even some of I'm like, is this gimmicky? Like, what I'm doing, is it really gimmicky? But like, sometimes, like, well, like, how else are people going to know, and how are they going to feel like they can engage with what we're doing as an industry if we're not meeting them at where they're at? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely struggle with this sometimes too, which is like I think that the stuff that maybe gets the most attention is like a lot more lowbrow, to put it one way. And that's not that like I am a child of the internet. I love, like like I've browsed 4chan. I
Right,
like
right,
the meme. I
right,
like, fucking around on the internet. It's
right,
fun.
right, right.
Like, but that being said, it's like, it's not, like, I don't know. There are aspects of crypto culture that I don't think are necessarily positive either.
Right.
And so yeah, it is sometimes uh, like, I think that, you like we have to find this balance, on two ends. One of, like, yes, popularizing things and making things fun and getting more people involved, but on the other end, actually doing serious things that actually push us forward, and
Mm.
that, don't get us pigeonholed into some like gimmick or some, like, dumb thing for attention. Um, it's like, I think it's not just crypto that faces this. A lot of industries do. So, I think it's just in trying to find that balance. Yeah.
No, no, I think you're absolutely right, right? Like, tying it too much to kind of, the things that are, easily just, can disappear right away, can really hurt the industry. We don't really want to hurt it. We want to kind of like uplift it. So I completely agree with what you're saying. You recently announced, kind of like a new revamp of, I feel like a new revamp of like the brand and things like that. Can you kind of, walk us through all the things you kind of recently announced, your two big announcements? I know you talked about sending somebody back to space, and what else?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there are two big announcements that we made, recently. One, that yes, we're sending someone new to space on December 15th. Like, the NFTs will go live, and people can acquire them. And that gives you, basically a random chance of being selected to go to outer space. So, like, that's huge in and of itself. But then we kind of tucked another, announcement in there, which isn't as glamorous, it isn't as fancy, but I think it is, 10 times more impactful, for our community, which is that we've made it so that if someone has never, interacted with Web3 before, basically people that are currently external to the tribe of, like, crypto or whatever, we've made it, 10 times easier to join the community. They can join the community with a credit card, and we'll actually generate a wallet for them that is still in their custody. So they still control that wallet. They still have the keys to that wallet. But we've basically taken this thing that was very difficult previously, which is, like, just becoming a native in the crypto world, which I think basically, a lot of us in this audience have done and have gone through that pain of, like, what the heck is this? Like, what how do you navigate this? Like, am I getting scammed? And try to make it a lot easier. And then on top of that, we've mapped a bunch of our contracts over to an L2 on Polygon, and we've taken it from about $30-40 and just gas fees to enter a community to less than 25 cents. So that lowers the barrier dramatically. And I think that um, like at least like I live in San Francisco, and we're and I think maybe a lot of people in the crypto world are kind of in a bubble where they think that most people can afford, $30-$40 and gas fees or whatever, but that's just not true for the majority of the world. So reducing that price tag was I think is going to be really, really important. I think that in order to really expand access to these tools, we need to lower the barriers of entry, like not just in terms of like the complexity of onboarding, but also the financial side. And so the majority of the world can't afford, a $20 transaction. So yeah, and then so this is all being built within over time. So this was kind of like the thing that we focus our energy the most on, which is onboarding. But we're also going to be expanding the governance process, and then also the project system that we have at MoonDAO, which is the way that people can get involved and start working and contributing at MoonDAO. And all of this we're trying to really build out within the app, so it's really just straightforward and intuitive how to get involved in MoonDAO.
That's awesome. I want to ask you something. Well, first of all, your governance is super impressive. The way you run the community, very impressive. I think that's one of the things that I try to model as much as possible. Definitely don't do a good job at it, but you guys are doing a really good job at that. And I love the idea of being really trying to educate people on the tools, the jargon, making sure they're not getting scammed. Because you get through one bad scam, you're not going to participate in this ecosystem anymore. It's not going to happen, right? Like you're out of money. There's no reason to do it. So I personally really appreciate all the efforts you're making on that front. I want to ask, like, how have you seen? Are you satisfied with Discord and managing communities through there? Do you think it suffices? Do you think there needs to be kind of like a move somewhere else? Is Telegram the answer? Well, what's the answer for you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, there's that quote that like the medium is the message, and so I think that actually a lot of DAOs have been defined through the medium of Discord.
Right.
And, this is like for better or for worse, like that's been the case. And I think Discord is great. I like scaling communities. It's free. People can join and be part of like a 30,000 person server. But at the same time, like I think when people first started using Discord as like a means for DAOs, it was new, and a lot of people, it was kind of taken from the gaming community, and it was pretty cool because it was a very kind of like niche and high signal place to be. But I think as Discord has become more popularized, now the number of kind of like scammers and spammers and just BS that comes through is really like annoying. And so this has kind of resulted a lot of times in like trying to set up kind of maybe a more defensive position and within Discord. So like it makes it harder for people to get into it and like communicate. So it's like this kind of like back and forth between like setting up barriers and then breaking them down and
Right. Trying
back.
to be open and then not trying to be open. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, Discord can be like super. It's great for some things, but it can also be super noisy, and like it's tough to really have a productive conversation within Discord, because you're in a general channel with 30,000 other people. The probability that someone is just going to say some like insane whatever that just makes no sense maybe
Yeah.
is
No.
pretty high. So I don't know. I think that we probably need different mediums for different types of conversations, and I think that then that yeah, like
Well, do you think creating like your own kind of like app-based community, or is it more of like just more pure Web 2 communications, or is it Telegram, or like, because I feel like every community is now rethinking kind of Discord, so that's why I asked.
yeah. Well, I honestly think of DAOs a lot in terms of like information systems. So you have like you want to be able to give everyone a voice within the community. and the highest signal way to do that is maybe through the governance process and voting. But then there's also just like a more high bandwidth like communication like channel that needs to be there, so that people that have like big stake and in the community, if they can't voice their concerns or they can't talk about what is going on seriously, then that breaks down sort of like the sense making ability of the DAO. So I think it's like one of the most important things to solve. And so yeah, we've tried to, I mean, and I know this sounds like maybe people's eyes rolls when we say like we're trying to incorporate AI into that process, but we are. So like and Amici, who's in the audience, he's been really fascinated with how to make that possible. Like, how do you take a bunch of people's ideas and then summarize them, and or take even like meeting notes? Because like sometimes like yeah, having a conversation like this in a synchronous way is the easiest way to kind of like grok an issue and come up with like potential paths forward. But then it's actually limiting to people on different time zones that might not be awake when that conversation happens. So then how do you take the content of those like conversations, summarize them, like put them out, and then let other people interact with that, and maybe in an asynchronous way after the fact. It's pretty difficult. And then how do you make that information system scale? Like, what works for maybe 100 people really well doesn't work for 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. And so I think that the problem becomes, and I think you kind of need to like create fractals of yourself over time. So like this is what we've tried to do with like project systems. It's like people kind of separate different domains of the organization, where like maybe there's like one decision maker in this area, and the DAO basically says, okay, this person is running this part of the organization, and they have a budget and they can work with the team, etc., and they can move faster that way, and we just trust them to work on that. And so yeah, we've been playing around with those kind of structures a lot, and we've actually gone through, I think, 5 iterations of that project system. We're getting closer and closer to something that works really well. I'd say now it's become a lot more mature, but it's tough.
That's awesome. Well, when you figure it out, please let us know. I'll just go into the MoonDAO Discord and see if I can learn. Because we're learning from you as you go. You've been doing an awesome job. As we look to kind of close out the conversation, and I'll leave probably another like 5 minutes in case anybody has any questions. But I want to just talk last part of this, the way you see kind of like multi-planetary worlds, and do you think it's possible? What's your timeline for it in terms of like actual civilizations on the moon or Mars, or however you look at it? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, actually, right before this space, I tweeted something which was like, there's currently 2 paths ahead of us. Like, one is like a pessimistic path where it's like we have like the carrying capacity of Earth is reaching its limit. Like like AI is going to make a lot of people useless or something, and there are people that really do think this. Think along these lines of like, oh, the like we have too many humans right now, and we need to do something about it. And that's like the
Sick.
pessimistic side.
That's sick.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no,
keep going.
it
Yeah.
is sick. It really is. But there are people that think this. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the optimism, which is like, okay, there are boundless resources out in the universe, and yes, it's going to be difficult to solve some of the problems of becoming multiplanetary and growing as a species, but it's possible. There's nothing like physically preventing us from doing it. And so I'd say that like we should fight as hard as we can for the optimistic future, to grow as a civilization, to take the seeds of Earth and see them blossom on other planets. And I think that's what we like, that's a good outcome, and not just for like a small group of people to go, but to get as many people as possible that want to go, that want to help create that exciting future. And basically collaborate, work together, and get there. And so I think that MoonDAO also came out of like this, just sort of maybe like not wanting to wait for someone else to go and do it. I mean, like I think Elon is and Jeff Bezos and all these guys are like doing incredible things. Axiom too, but like it's still only like a small percentage of people that are working on these problems. We should get way more people working on them. We should get tons of people to devote their creative output towards like figuring out some of the hardest problems in space. And so I think that like let's really fight to make that optimistic future happen and accelerate it. The faster we can make it happen, the better. Like Elon talks about this, which is like, we don't know how long this window of opportunity is going to exist for. We don't know how long. Like right now, it is possible to start settling Moon and have that be a launch point for Mars, and create a self-sustaining settlement on the Moon and Mars. But we don't know how long that window of opportunity is going to exist. So we should act now. So yeah,
That's true, because if you look at the Apollo program, right, like we were going to the moon, a decent amount, right, and then we went through what 30-year drought or something, or 40-year drought. So you're right, like there is a window of opportunity that I think just humanity in general has to take advantage of. To your point.
totally. Yeah, and I think it's really really sad that like right now there is kind of like an overall pessimism in sort of the ability of like government to do anything. And like I hope that um, like like I want to see it on like the top line like agenda for like the OKRs for the Western world, like OKR number one, like create a settlement on the moon, like create a damn lunar base. Like
Right.
let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know why like that is like an exciting and inspiring future that like gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And like I think you could rally tons of people to do it, if you have the right person that's just like, let's go for it.
Yeah,
So
everything just seems so politicized at this point, right? That like even that will become, which side of the aisle do you stand on, for that? And I think that's why everybody kind of has that general sense or feeling, that it's tough to get things through government. But I do hope we kind of get our act together and we're able to do that before, honestly, like it's not like only the West is hoping to get to the moon and Mars, right? Like everybody around the world is trying to do the same thing. You have China, Russia, you have countries around the world trying to do the same thing. So, hopefully
totally.
we can get it together. I do want to, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to, ask to, come up. Uh, if you have any questions for Pablo about MoonDAO or, Web3, any questions you want to get in before we wrap. Um, while people start thinking through if they have a question or two, is there what can we do to kind of help out the MoonDAO costs here?
Yeah, get involved in the community. You can go to discord.gg/moondao or just moondao.com. It's probably the easiest way to like find the MoonDAO like ecosystem. Yeah, and I think one thing that came to mind as you were talking is that DAOs are kind of like the tribe or like government that you choose. So like you can like I think that rather than maybe like trying to get everyone to agree on something and it becomes super political, like we should just create like alternate sort of like means of collaborating and coordinating. And I think that's what DAOs represent. It's like, yeah, maybe we don't live in the same nation. Maybe maybe I've never even met you face to face, but we share this like same mission and goal. And I think that that's like it's beautiful that we have these tools to like work together.
I love that. I love that. Regal or Regal.
Yeah, Rigel. Yeah,
Oh,
thank you for
Rigel.
having
Hey,
me.
how are you?
Yeah,
Welcome.
hello. I'm fine. Thanks for having me up here.
Thanks for coming.
So I'm one of the first passport holders through Copernic Space. So it's an honor to be here. I'm glad that Andrew um, posted the space, and then meetings and meetings with Grant and Farrell, getting this entrepreneur entrepreneurial venture started with Copernic Space. It's very exciting. But I posted in the chat bubble how there's currently a plan to open up hotels in space by 2025. And the same with gas stations. So I don't know if you've heard or read about any of that, but what are your thoughts on that?
What do you think, Pablo? I know we're working on a station, so I'm that I don't know how people look at it, but maybe they look at it as a hotel. I'm hoping we get it up there. I don't know if we'll get ready to welcome people by 2030, but we're hoping so. But what do you think, Pablo?
Oh yeah, I was about to say, like, you'd know better than I do on this, but I have Phil Metzger published something. I follow him on Twitter and love watching what he's publishing, and he has like a very like strong business plan or like business case for like how especially like the moon could be used as like a refueling station, and that could be like one of the first big like ways to finance like a lunar base. And I mean, I think that makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, we can use the materials that are on the moon right now to create different yeah, like new, like basically have a little refueling station up there, and then that can help missions go further with less mass coming off of Earth.
I wonder what we'll get first: flying cars on Earth or gas stations on the moon. I'm really like Back to the Future. Like, where do we get to first? Where do we get to first?
Yeah, it's anybody's guess at this point. I mean, all the hovercrafts that Tesla's working on or Elon's working on, he's got hovering stuff going on. And then, yeah, 2025 is only a year away, right?
Wow. Actually, you saying that, just I don't know if I'm happy or sad or whatever, but wow, time is flying.
It is. It is. Well, and what happens on Earth matters in space. What happens in space matters on Earth, whether it's disease or, advancement or what have you. We need to be socially responsible. And that's one of the things that's one of the perspectives that brought Eva Blaisdell and I together, the co-founder of Copernic Space, is how can we utilize what is in space to help heal what needs to be healed here. And if we talk about disease, well, I'm really interested in seeing how plants grow up in space and see how we can maybe get some trees started growing much sooner to help our ecosystem. But if we talk about disease, mental health, cancer, all of that is accelerated in space, all that growth. So
Right.
To help heal ourselves as well is really important in our environment. But yeah, we can utilize, satellite data. Grant and I were just discussing how Japan is sending up the first wooden satellite, which is about the size of a coffee mug. I believe it's made out of magnolia. And wood actually does very well in space. It doesn't rot. And the only thing is it does it does incinerate upon reentry into the atmosphere. So, you probably won't get it back that way. But yeah, very interesting things happening there.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, to your point, like, one of the big things that's going to happen on Axiom Station as we continue to build out, the modules, which are, will be done in stages, is we're going to have a kind of a manufacturing module. So the things you're talking about, right? Um, Bioengineering, whether it be accelerating drug research or organ development and things like that. So, there's huge industries that will be developed in space for the benefit of Earth, and I think that's a really important thing for us to not forget. I think oftentimes people are like, "Well, we got to get to space because we got to get the hell off this planet." It's not really about that. It's about how can we benefit this planet and benefit the people on it with what can be done in space. And I think you beautifully articulated that. So thank you very much for coming up and chatting with us. As we kind of close out here, anybody have any more questions for Pablo? If not, we'll kind of wrap. And then, first and foremost, I want to just thank Pablo for, taking the time out today to chat with us. How MoonDAO is decentralizing access to space. I think we covered a lot of really, important topics. I love the way that, Pablo and MoonDAO kind of have built out the community, have been trailblazers in this space since the bull run of 2020, and where they're at now. They've come such a long way, and they're going to continue kind of to lead that way. So Pablo, really appreciate it. Any final words for the community?
Yes, I need to show one thing that I think that a lot of
We
people
love
here
Let's
would be
go.
really interested in. So if you go to moondao.com/waitlist, so this waitlist will get you all of the information that you need in order to enter into the sweepstakes. That launches on December 15th, and that gives you the chance of being selected to go to space. So
can I just say
that.
something on this end? Just given that I work at Axiom Space, our price tag to go to space is much different than this price tag to go to space. Just this opportunity is insane. The fact that you can be chosen at random, you're probably one of, even if it's 1 out of 1,000 or a couple thousand, it's amazing odds for basically a $20 entry into the MoonDAO community. So definitely get on this wait list. It's an awesome opportunity. I hope you win, and I hope you heard about it in this spaces. So Pablo, is there a way you can just add something to maybe I can add it to the space? Oh yeah, like if we can pin it or something. Is it the one that's pinned on MoonDAO official?
There we go. I just added that in. So yeah, moondao.com/waitlist is the place to go. But yeah, it's up there. So yeah, sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it like we should also mention that like the reason why like this thing doesn't happen that often too is like it's very expensive, and even just the taxes alone are expensive, and MoonDAO is covering the taxes. It's just like insane.
Like the lottery, right? Like you're covering the taxes themselves. That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, get involved.
Get
We're
involved,
doing this
guys.
for you
Once in a
guys.
lifetime.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
we're doing the biggest what?
I said we're doing this for you guys. Like we're doing this for we want to get as many people to have the chance of accessing like all these opportunities. So yeah.
Couldn't agree more. But honestly, I'm trying to win. So if you don't get people, I have better chances. But I do,
Yeah.
just for the sake of everyone, I do believe everybody should kind of get involved and get on this wait list. So check it out. Check out MoonDAO. If you're not following them for some reason, definitely be following them. And really appreciate Pablo, MoonDAO, and all of you for coming out. We do these conversations, Space3 talks, every other, usually it's on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or whatever. And we try to, talk to builders who are building at the intersection of space and Web3. Feel free to follow us at Axiom Space3. We're also building at the intersection of Web3 and space. The parent company, Axiom Space, building out the first commercial space station. So guys, we're going to be in space. Please join us there, and appreciate all of you. Keep building, and keep believing. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
See
Thank
y'all.
you.